ITV Evening News.
Crisis night at Britain's power stations, and with the Go Slow campaign due to start in less than 9 hours' time, there's still no sign of a peace move.
And now it's time for the first of those programmes, the news from ITN. Your newscaster Leonard Parkin, a time check for you. It's exactly 5:45.
The news at 5:45 with Leonard Parkin.
The battle for bargain basement flights to Europe. The Labour Party inquiry, another victory for the left-wingers. The Rovers return and the other ITV regulars are back. Good evening.
Health talks clear the first hurdle. Tomorrow is decision day. Brezhnev puts on a massive military show and warns off all aggressors. London shows how it would fight the floods. And there's a wetter welcome in some of the valleys from today. Good evening.
The news from ITN.
Doctors hit back at the government over the NHS. Geldof says 5 million could starve to death in Ethiopia. The men from Lords fly to Pakistan to support Mike Gatting. And down but not out, the micropilot heading down under. Good evening. There's more concern about the National Health Service than ever before.
From ITN headquarters, the early evening news with John Suchet.
Hello. British troops in Bosnia have been given the hope of a peaceful Christmas on the front line.
From the studios of ITN, the news with Nicholas Owen.
Good evening. Welcome to the programme. Tonight's main news. 3 die after being trapped for 2 hours in a freezing lake. And Republican justice. The man murdered in front of his small son. A young girl and 2 men who were trapped for nearly 2 hours under the ice of a freezing lake in West Yorkshire died in hospital tonight.
From ITN, the ITV Evening News with Trevor MacDonald.
It's 6:30 on Friday evening. The headlines. Cash machine charges, banking watchdog acts tonight. The high cost of Dover's human cargo. Not ready for action, army rifles to be recalled. And Tranmere's secret weapon in Sunday's Cup final. Good evening. Banks and building societies were condemned tonight for overcharging customers who use cash machines where they don't have an account.
Budget, national insurance, cigarettes up, petrol frozen.
Massive increase in NHS spending over 5 years.
On the front line with the Royal Marines on Afghan mission.
And Beckham's message for the fans, see you at the World Cup.
The ITV Evening News with Dermot Monaghan and Katie Derrick.
Good evening. Welcome to the programme.
Regrets and mistakes. BBC reporter finally admits errors over the Dr. Kelly story.
Cleared of killing Jade, the couple accused of failing her when she swallowed ecstasy.
School run gridlock, £50 million to stop the chaos.
And feeding frenzy, why too much food is killing us.
As a nation, we're eating too much and we're seeing an increase in cancer.
The ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. A slip of the tongue, quite wrong with hindsight. Is a sex offender teaching your child? Tonight, the government blunders, which mean it could be happening.
It's a huge failing, and the only people who are suffering from it is the children.
beggars belief, but the appalling lessons of the Ian Huntley case appear not to have been learned. The Education Secretary, Ruth Kelly, has admitted she doesn't know how many paedophiles have slipped through the net.
Also tonight, on trial, Abu Hamza, the Islamic preacher accused of inciting murder and racial hatred. Every second counts, the new research that could help you spot the deadly signs of meningitis. And a tearful farewell to Sharon Beshanivsky, the policewoman and mother shot dead on the streets of Bradford.
Good evening.
In the grip of civil war, the Defence Secretary, John Reid, tells ITV News that Iraq is not out of control. He was quick to reject the crisis claims by the country's former Prime Minister. Tonight, we report from Iraq on the 3rd anniversary of the invasion. Also tonight, loans for lordships. Can Tony Blair hold off the vultures amid a storm of accusations over sleaze? And ugly scenes at the West London derby as Chelsea lose their way against Fulham. Good evening. 3 years ago tonight, the combined might of the British and American armed forces was poised to unleash its overwhelming firepower on Saddam Hussein and his reign of terror in Iraq.
It's confirmed the most virulent form of bird flu is back in Britain. The strain found on a farm in Suffolk is H5N1. Tonight, halting the virus as much of East Anglia becomes a restricted zone. The outbreak is being linked to cases in the Czech Republic and Germany. Wild birds seem the likeliest source. We investigate how difficult it will be to contain. Also on the programme. Family tragedy. A couple and 3 of their children are killed in a house fire. 2 more of their children are missing.
I felt sick just at the thought of it. The fact that there's wee children and they couldn't get out.
Raising the stakes, Benazir Bhutto calls on Musharraf to quit as her protest march is thwarted by police. And the reverse ripple effect. We reveal where house prices are falling fastest. Good evening. The worst kind of bird flu is back in Britain. The virus found at a turkey farm in Suffolk was confirmed today as the deadly H5N1 strain. Let him die in prison. Tonight, the anger of American families at suggestions that the Lockerbie bomber could soon be freed.
This man killed 270 people. He's getting medical treatment in Scotland. Oh, whoa, so sad. Why aren't you sorry for me?
US government officials say al-Megrahi should serve his full sentence and die in jail. But ITV News has learnt that it's his prison governor who's recommended his release on compassionate grounds.
Also on the programme, staying put despite his gaffe over MP's expenses, the Tory Alan Duncan is saved from the chop. A major fashion chain is found guilty of harassing a disabled employee. And put the kettle on why a cup of tea can do so much more than merely quenching your thirst.
Good evening.
One of the bravest of the brave, the bomb disposal expert killed in Afghanistan just days before he was due home for a family visit.
When we get to the target end, after the longest walk, if you like, we're mentally focused and ready to take on the challenge of dealing with the job in hand.
This is the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary Nightingale and Alistair Stewart.
Staff Sergeant Olaf Schmid died disarming a Taliban bomb. His wife said she took comfort from knowing he'd saved countless lives. Also tonight, The life or death battle between two parents in court to decide if their baby son's life support should be switched off.
Beaten to death by a gang of thugs, the victim of a shocking Halloween attack.
And 500,000 reasons to say thank you. Sophie's appeal raises the £500,000 she needs for cancer treatment. Japan's double disaster. Its strongest earthquake on record creates a devastating 30-foot tsunami. Raging waters surged across the land, tearing down buildings, carrying debris and people at terrifying speed. The powerful quake struck mid-afternoon local time, causing panic in packed offices. Tonight, whole towns are still ablaze, oil installations on fire, and a nuclear power plant threatened with meltdown.
This is the ITV News at 6:30 with Alistair Stewart and Andrea Benfield.
Early reports put the number killed in the hundreds, but many, many more are missing. The true human cost of this disaster has yet to emerge. Britain and the rest of the world stand ready to help in the search and rescue operation that will follow.
In other news, father in the dock, Christopher Grady, tells a court about the moment he drove his children into a river.
And mourning a soldier's son, Lance Corporal Stephen McKee, killed in Afghanistan.
Good evening. Nature unleashed its fearsome power on the people of Japan today in a double disaster that's caused massive damage.
Councils count the mounting cost of preventing a repeat of the Grenfell disaster. They say it will cost tens of millions of pounds to make tower blocks safe. ITV News obtains letters demanding more money from the government. Also tonight, 5 extra years in jail for the breast cancer surgeon who carried out needless operations. Brexit begins to bite. The Bank of England warns of a sluggish economy. Going to extremes, can England's women make it to the final at Euro 2017?
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. ITV News has learned that several local councils have now put a figure on the huge cost of improving fire safety in their tower blocks.